right, everybody, welcome in today. We are excited for today's special of Self-Directed IRA Saturday, and we've got a really good one for you guys here this afternoon. One of my good friends, Jay Connor, is going to be joining us. Jay is actually just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to real estate in general and real estate investing. He is the founder of the Private Money Authority and Private Money Academy. So in Jay's real estate career, he's really learned and kind of mastered not only how to find private money, but retain those private money lenders as well. And he has his own coaching program, which is the Private Money Academy, where he teaches other real estate investors and other individuals a lot of his experience and how they can do much the same. So that's just a little bit about Jay, and we'll bring him up here in just a second. But I do want to say as well, before we really get started, that if y'all have any questions throughout, we're going to be getting to those. We'll have some Q&A at the very end of the presentation. So go ahead and post your comments there down in the chat. Even if y'all, want to let us know where you're joining from today, wherever it's, if you're in a different part of the country. I'm here in Houston. I know Jay is over on the East Coast. But we're so happy to have y'all here today and really excited for the presentation. Before we do get started though, as in all things that Quest does, if y'all are not too familiar with us, and maybe this is your first time joining us for a webinar, this is a pretty standard disclaimer, but Quest Trust Company, and by extension myself, we don't provide any sort of tax, legal, investment, or deal structuring advice, right? So this is purely for educational purposes to help kind of expand your knowledge, help you grow in the real estate industry, and learn a little bit more about private lending specifically, and where you can acquire that. So bear that in mind as we go through. But I guess without further ado, that's about all I have. We can go ahead and bring Jay up here and let him jump into it. So let me take that down. Jay, how are you this morning, sir? Or I guess rather this afternoon now.
Colin Taylor, I'm so excited to see you, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person in just a few weeks at our Private Money Academy live conference here in Eastern North Carolina. And I'm so excited to be here with you and your Quest followers and audience to talk about private money, because actually private money has had more of an impact than any other strategy in mine and Carol Joy's investing career since, we've been full-time now since 2003. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and dive in and share with everybody what this private money thing is all about.
Yeah, well, it's, again, a pleasure, as always, to have you here with us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday to join us and speak a little bit more about your expertise. So I'll let you get into it and give you the floor here.
Sounds great. Well, Colin, if you're all good, I'll go ahead and jump right in.
Yeah, go for it, Jay.
All right. So welcome to all of you that are here in the presentation. This has been, titled Score Big with Private Money. And, the interesting thing about private money is that since I have been borrowing money from private money lenders since 2009, I have never asked anybody for money. So I'm going to share with you in the presentation here how to establish relationships, how to get funding for your real estate deals without ever having to ask for money. So I want to share here in the presentation, first of all, how to never miss out on a deal for not having the funding. And since I've been using private money with private lenders since 2009, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the funding. I'm going to share with you the exact steps. There's 5 steps in what I call the warm market. There's 5 steps in what I call doing business with existing private lenders. I'm going to share those steps with you that are needed to attract unlimited funding for your deals. And I'm going to share with you my system designed with your success in mind. And what does that mean? is that I'm not going to share anything with you here in this presentation unless it is something that I have already done myself and I am still doing it today. So I'm going to show you how to attract funding for your real estate deals from 3 different sources. I'm going to show you how to locate at least 12,000 existing private lenders every month. And I'm going to show you step by step how I raised $2,150,000 in private money in less than 90 days when I was cut off from the banks. I'm also going to show you how to buy properties without using any of your own money. I mean, in fact, it's even better than that. I'm going to show you how to get a big check when you buy a property without bringing any of your own money to the closing table. I'm also going to show you here how to get multiple checks on every transaction. I mean, not only a big check when you buy, but other checks as well during the transaction. And if you are rehabbing a property, how in the world do you get all of your rehab money up front? Now, I will go ahead and tell you this right now. Private money is not just for the ugly house business. It's not just for rehabbing. We're going to use private money and private lenders when the seller of the property requires all the cash. Now, in case you've got to jump off early and you're not able to stay to the end of the presentation, which I encourage you to do so, I don't want you to miss out. So I want to ship to you in the mail for free as a thank you just for showing up here for this presentation. I'm so excited about my book. It's called Where to Get the Money Now, subtitle, How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. Now, in this book, just a few highlights, I'm going to show you, you'll discover where to get unlimited cash to do your real estate deals, how to grow your investing business using private money, and you're going to learn my step-by-step proven system on private money that is behind my 7-figure real estate business, my annual 7 figures. So this book is not an ebook. You cannot download it. And believe it or not, the United States Postal Service is still in business. I'll autograph this book for you. I'll ship it to you 3-day priority mail, and it's free. All you got to do is just cover shipping. You can pick up my book at jayconner.com/book. And by the way, I'm an ER, not an OR, as you see here on the screen. So jayconner.com/book. Now, in addition to that, for you being here on the webinar, I've got a $3,000 gift for you right now. And that is my Private Money Academy Conference. The next one is February 14, 15, and 16, just a few weeks away here in Eastern North Carolina. And Colin himself, along with his team members, are going to be at our event here in Eastern North Carolina. Why do you want to come to this event? It's a 3-day event, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You get a network with my personal private lenders. You learn ways of finding off-market properties before other real estate investors even know about these opportunities. And you also will learn how to run your business in less than 10 hours per week, just like I do. The tickets are normally $3,000 for this 3-day event, but because you're here on Quest, on this webinar, you get to come for free. I'm going to give you this URL right here. All you got to do is pay a $97 registration fee at www.jaysliveevent.com, JAYSLIVEEVENT.com, right here, just a few weeks away. So again, that's another thank you gift for just being here on the webinar. So who in the world is Jay Conner, and how am I qualified to even talk with you about private money? Well, I can tell you how it all started. You see, from 2003 until 2009, the first 6 years that I was investing in single family houses here in North Carolina, I relied on the local bank to fund my deals. That's all I knew to do, was go to the bank get on my hands and knees and put my hands underneath my chin and beg and say, please fund my deal. Well, in January of 2009, everything changed. I've called up my banker. His name was Steve. And I called him up, and I had this conversation with Steve many times. And I told Steve about these two deals that I had under contract that, I was going to use his funding for at the bank. And I learned very quickly that I had lost my line of credit with no notice whatsoever. I had an 800 credit score. I had a beautiful relationship with the bank for 6 years, and now I'm cut off with no notice. And so I say to Steve, my banker, I say, Steve, what in the world are you talking about that you have cut me off and shut down my line of credit? And Steve says, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? And I said, no, Steve, but now I got a financial crisis going on. I don't have any way to fund these two deals. So I hung up the phone with Steve, my banker, and I sat here at my desk for a moment and I asked myself a very, very important question. And here's a writer downer for you. And I asked myself the question, who can help me with my problem? And by the way, these people who are running around saying, oh, you didn't have a problem, you had an opportunity. I wanted to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity, I had a problem. I didn't have a way to fund my deals. So I sat here and I asked myself the question, who can help me with my problem? I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship, who lived in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. Jeff was a good friend, still is, and he was investing in single family houses. I called him up. He said, welcome to the club, Jay. I said, what club is that? He said, the club of losing your line of credit at the bank. They just shut me down last week. I said, well, how are you funding your deals, Jeff? He said, well, have you heard of self-directed IRAs? I said, no. He says, have you heard of private money? I said, no. And so I hung up the phone and I started studying private money. I had never heard of self-directed IRAs such as Quest. And by the way, if you're new to this webinar, Quest, hands down, has got the absolute best customer service of any other third-party custodian in this United States of America. I get my deals funded within 3 days of contacting Quest, and one of my private lenders is funding my deals. Anyway, so I studied private money and I put my program together as to what I would offer potential private lenders. And in less than 90 days, I was able to attract and raise $2,150,000. So how did I do that without asking anybody for money? And here's the answer. I simply put on what I call my private money teacher hat. I started teaching people that I had some kind of relationship with. I go to church with them. We're in the Rotary Club. We're in Business Networking International. And I started teaching them how they could earn high rates of return safely and securely. I taught them the interest rate that I would pay. I taught them how they can get their money back in case of an emergency. And so I didn't pitch any deals. I just simply taught them my program. And after teaching them my private lending program, they told me how much they had to work with. And I told them I would put their money to work for them just as soon as possible. And it was that easy. You see, here's a writer downer. Desperation has got a smell to it, if you know what I mean by that. You see, the worst time to be attracting or raising private money is when you need it for a deal. So I just simply started teaching people what my program is as to how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely. They told me how much money they had to work with. Now, if they were just using investment capital, they told me how much they had to work with. And then there were a lot of them. You see, my wife, Carol Joy, and I, right now today, we've got 47 private lenders, individuals that are loaning us money on our real estate deals. And guess what? Over half of those individuals are using their retirement funds. So guess what I did? I introduced each one of them to Quest, and they moved their existing retirement funds over to Quest, established an account at Quest. And so then once those funds were moved over, then they could start investing in our deals and loaning us money on our deals. And here's the thing. Another way that I don't ask for money, I've never pitched a deal in my life. Once my private lender would move their retirement funds over to Quest, I would then give them what I call the good news phone call. That's another writer downer right there. The good news phone call. I call on my private lender and I say, look, I got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. And I would tell them about the deal, the after repaired value, the funding required for the deal, and the closing date. And I say, we'll have to get your funds wired from Quest, a day or two prior to closing. Well, guess what? You see, here's the deal. I am ethically bound to put their funds to work when they've moved them over to Quest. Well, why is that? Well, that's because they're not earning any money on their retirement funds until I put their funds to work for them. So, I'm going to have this in a slide as we go through the presentation, but here's a writer downer and an actionable item for you. If you do not already have established a relationship with a representative at Quest, guess who my relationship is with? Colin Taylor. Guess who my mastermind members relationship is with? Colin Taylor. You want a relationship with somebody at Quest so that when you now have a new private lender that wants to do business with you, well, you need to be able to introduce them to somebody at Quest so they can get their account established. So that's the background as to how I even got involved in this. So who exactly or what exactly is a private lender? A private lender is an individual, just like you or me, who loans money to you as the real estate investor from either their investment capital or their retirement account. You see, I've got private lenders that are using their liquid investment capital and they're using their retirement funds that they have at Quest as well. So private lending is simply a one-on-one transaction with no middle person involved. So in this world of private lending, I'm not talking about joint venturing. I want you to write this down. The private lender does not own the property. You do. Your entity, your land trust, your LLC, whatever entity that you're investing in, you own the property. So we're not joint venturing. I'm not sharing the profits or a percentage of the profits with the private lender. They get they know exactly what the interest rate is going to be that I'm going to pay them. I'm also not talking about hard money lending. Typically, a hard money lender is a broker of money, to where the hard money lender goes out and raises money for their fund that then loans money out to real estate investors. So everything that we do in this world of private money is what we call one-offs. Well, what in the world is a one-off? Well, a one-off means we got a private lender or a couple of private lenders that are funding the deal. So you got a private lender or a couple of private lenders, and then you've got a single family house. Now, by the way, private lenders we can also use for commercial deals. But on those larger commercial deals, we're typically going to establish a fund. We will hire an SEC attorney, create a private placement memorandum. But in my world of single family houses, everything is one-offs. There's no fund that the private lenders are investing in. It's the private lender or a couple of private lenders that are funding that real estate deal, and they're getting their own promissory note. They're getting their own deed of trust or mortgage to back that note. So a private lender is not a bank or any kind of, institutional money. Now, again, private lending works for single family. It also works for commercial. But in this presentation, we're talking about single family houses. As I just mentioned, we're not talking about raising money for a fund. Everything we do is one-offs, as I just said. Every deal stands on its own. So you got one property that's being funded by one or maybe a couple of private lenders. And each private lender's loan is secured by that real estate that we are purchasing. Now, there's three categories of where we get private money. We have number one, your own warm market. Well, what do I mean by your warm market? Well, your warm market are people that you've already got an established relationship with. A second place to find private money is what I call my new expanded warm market. Now, in the live event that I just told you all about, the Private Money Academy live event that's coming up in a few weeks, I spend a whole long session teaching you about how to expand your warm market. Some real estate investors say, I don't have a large network. Well, I will teach you how to grow that network very, very quickly. And here's another writer downer for you, quote unquote, the more money you waller in, the more money sticks to you. If you don't know what waller means, it means just sort of roll around. So I say go to where the money is. I teach you all that at the live event. And then the third market of where you find private money are what we call existing private lenders. And I'll tell you about as well how to find those existing private lenders. Now, here is a long list of why I absolutely love private money. In contrast to, say, getting institutional money, bank money, or hard money lenders. By the way, I've got some great friends that are hard money lenders and hard money brokers. And I say, establish as many relationships as you can, right? You want to have your own private money lenders and have relationships with hard money lenders as well. But why I love private money? Well, here's a long list. Number one, there's no credit check. Your credit score has got nothing to do with how much private money you can get. Why is that? Because all of these notes and loans are collateral based loans. It's not based on your credit, it's based on the asset that is backing that note. There's no income verification, there's no tax returns to share. In this world of private money, there's no points or origination fees to pay. There's no appraisals. The private lenders are loaning us money on these deals based on a CMA, which stands for a comparative market analysis that is prepared by the realtor that you do business with. We receive multiple checks on every deal without having to take any of our own money to the closing table. And here's the beautiful part. You make the rules. When I was borrowing money from the banks, who made the rules? They made the rules. But in this world of where you are teaching people in your warm market about this opportunity, you get to make the rules. And you say, well, Jay, I don't know what rules to make. Well, guess what? When I mail you my book, right, jconnor.com/book, when I mail you this book, spelled out right here in the book is the exact private lending program that I offer to all my private lenders. Now, I'm going to go over with you here in the presentation what the program is, but you may miss a point or two. When I mail you the book, you're going to get it. And when you come to the upcoming live event, we dive deep into the program as well that we teach private lenders. Another big reason I love private money is there's no limit to the number of private lenders that you can do business with. When I was borrowing money from the banks, I had a limit to my line of credit. But in this world of private money, there's no limit to the number of private lenders you can have. There's no limit to the amount of private money that you can be borrowing. You can borrow across state lines. You don't have to borrow like within your own state. The reason for that is because the commissioner of banks in your state does not regulate private money lending like it does institutional money. And in addition to that, the way that we do private money, you are not limited to borrowing from accredited investors. You can borrow from anybody the way we do this business. In addition to those reasons, you can close deals faster and negotiate more profitable deals. And I tell you what, this is a big benefit. I get more offers accepted on my real estate deals because I'm able to close fast. On all my offers, I actually put in the offer to purchase that I can close in 7 days. Well, if you're borrowing institutional money, you can't close in 7 days. But in this world of private money, you'll get more offers accepted because you can close quicker. And you're able to do an unlimited number of deals with multiple private lenders. Another big benefit is in this world of private money, there's no personal guarantees. Every deal stands on its own. And we're able to structure deals, a lot of these deals, to where you don't even have to make any monthly payments to your private lender because we're just letting the interest accrue. Now, we do have some private lenders that actually do need monthly payments because they are looking to live off of that money. But if they're loaning me money on a deal and they're using their Quest account, their retirement funds, well, you see the returns, the payments, and the interest are not going back to the individual themselves. The return and the interest is going to their Quest retirement account. So again, a lot of the deals that you do, you can just let the interest accrue. So when are you going to use private money? You're going to use private money when the seller of the property requires all the cash. So bank-owned property, short sales, auctions, and I'll tell you, after reviewing thousands and thousands of property lead sheets over the years, I have discovered that only 13% of for sale by owners off market deals, and of course, that's where we're getting all of our deals today. Only 13% of those for sale by owners will sell to us creatively, either sell to us subject to the existing note or seller financing. What do the other 87% of all those off market sellers require? That's right, they require all the cash. Well, guess what? When you've got private money and private lenders ready to go, you're not going to miss out on any deals. Now, why would a individual as a private lender be interested in doing business with us? Well, first of all, their investment in our deal, their loan to us, it's secure and safe. Here's a writer downer. Do not borrow any unsecured funds. You can legally. I mean, someone at Quest that's got a Quest account, they can loan out unsecured funds. But let me tell you, do not borrow unsecured funds. You want to protect your private lender by backing that note with the real estate that you're buying. Secondly, why would a private lender be interested in doing business with us? Well, they can earn a lot more money than they can through traditional investment sources, such as a certificate of deposit. And by all means, people are sick and tired of the stock market and the volatility of the stock market. And so particularly our private lenders that are older, they don't have time to live through another correction, right? So they want to know exactly what their rate of return is going to be. Why would a lender be interested in doing business with us? Well, we're going to pay them interest-only payments or let the interest accrue, and that makes them more money than paying principal and interest. You see, paying or accruing interest-only payments is a win for the lender. It's also a win for you, the borrower. It's a win for you, the borrower, because interest-only payments or accruing interest helps you cash flow. But the lender also makes more money. You see, if you're making principal and interest payments to your private lender, you're paying down the principal loan amount, which means they don't have their full amount invested. But with interest-only payments or accruing interest, your private lender is going to make more money. And in addition to that, our private lenders love doing business with us because they're able to get their principal back early in case of an emergency. So how do we do that? In the notes, we offer a 90-day call option, which means if the private lender has got an emergency that comes up, they can get their principal loan back within 90 days. Typically, it only takes a couple of weeks. And we don't charge a penalty for that either. If someone puts money in a certificate of deposit and they pull the money out early, then guess what? There's a penalty. But the way we do business, we don't charge any kind of penalties to our private lenders if they need to call the note due early. Now, here's another writer downer. You know, desperation has got a smell to it. Desperation's got a smell to it. What do I mean by that? You see, the worst time to be raising money or looking for private money is when you need it for a particular deal. There's always going to be deals, right? So I encourage you to do what I do and what I did. Focus on getting the private money raised first. And then when a deal comes along, you don't have to worry about, scrambling around trying to find out where the funding is going to come from. And by the way, these people that go around saying, oh, just get the deal under contract, the money will show up. I want to throw up. Where's the money going to show up? Is it going to like rain out of clouds? No. Establish your relationship with your private lenders first. Know how much they've got to invest. And then when you've got a deal come along, you can close on it quickly. Now, where can you get the money? Well, as I said, there's three categories. There's your warm market, there's your expanded warm market, and then there's existing private lenders. I'm just going to talk in this presentation about two of those markets right now. Get to my upcoming live event, and I'll dive deep on how you expand your network very quickly as well. So here are the 5 steps, if you want to write them down. Here are the 5 easy steps for attracting private money from people that you've already got a relationship with. Step number 1 is make your list. Identify prospects. And in fact, in my book and also at the live event, we actually go through an exercise as to how you identify your top potential private lenders that you've already got a relationship with. Step number 2 is you're going to have a simple opening conversation with the people that are on your list. Step number 3, you're going to send them what I call the 16-minute audio, which introduces them to this world of private money. Step number 4 is where you actually explain and teach the program, again, by putting your teacher hat on, right? And teaching them how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely by your program. And then step number 5 is simply get a verbal pledge. So in step number 1, make your list. I'll tell you, you know more people than you think you do. You could have millions of dollars of private money just in your cell phone contacts. And in the book, I'm actually going to teach you 3 new markets that you can go to in your local area to find private lenders. Now, step number 2 in the warm market is what we call the opening conversation. Now, there's 2 different kinds of conversations that I teach at the live event. One's called the direct method. The direct method employs what we call the magic question. And then we have the indirect method, which is employing the phrase, I need your help. So let me give you the 30,000-foot view of how this works. The direct method is called the magic question. You're having a conversation with someone, perhaps they are a potential private lender, and here's the magic question if you want to write it down. The magic question is, quote unquote, do you have investment capital or retirement funds not giving you a high rate of return safely and securely? I'll repeat that magic question. Do you have investment capital or retirement funds not giving you a high rate of return safely and securely? Now, obviously, you're not going to start out a conversation like that, but in my scripting, that's what you lead up to. So that's the direct method, asking a potential private lender, an individual, if they have investment capital or retirement funds. Now, in addition to that, we have what's called the indirect method. You might know someone that has got investment capital, but you might be a little intimidated by asking that direct question. So here's how the indirect method works. In fact, this is how I got my first $250,000 private lender. It was on a Wednesday night at Bible study. where Carol Joy and I go to church. I walked into the foyer. I walked up to a gentleman and I told him that I wanted to visit with him for a few minutes after Bible study. So we got together, and when we went into the room, I looked at him and I said, I need your help. And then I said, I've now opened up my real estate investing business to people I know and trust. And by referral only, I am now paying high rates of return to my private lenders. And then I said to him, when you run across someone that's complaining about getting, low rates at the bank, the volatility of the stock market, would you refer to them to me and I'll tell them about my program? Well, what do you think he said to me? He said, well, now, Jay, what have you got in mind? And so obviously he was interested in the program. The next day I went to his and his wife's home. I went over the program, the private lending program, and they became my first $250,000 private lender. So that's the indirect method. Now, of course, the way this scripts out and how we use it specifically at the upcoming live event, I go into all the details of that, but at least you're getting, a nice 30,000 foot view of how this works. Now, another step that I use is I record a 16-minute audio for all of our members of the Private Money Academy. And this 16-minute audio introduces this world of private money to individuals. And my students and members simply email it out, they text it out, and it introduces this world of private money and then brings people to what we call step number 4. So step number 4 in this warm market process, this is where we actually teach the private lending program. It's all laid out in the book, the interest rate, etc. I teach it at the live event. But on this one-on-one appointment, we teach the private lending program to the potential private lender, the interest rate they can get, how they can get their money back in case of an emergency, and all that. Now, how can you get the word out? Well, you can get the word out on one-on-one appointments. You can meet people at Starbucks for coffee. You do private lender luncheons. I mean, I did a private lender luncheon where I invited people that I know, friends and acquaintances, and I raised $969,000 at just one private lender luncheon. You can also present the program, on Zoom or on webinars. Step number 5 is getting a verbal pledge. So I'm not going to ask my new private lender to sign anything. They're just going to give me a verbal and let me know how much money they got to work with. If they've got retirement funds, I'm going to introduce them to Colin Taylor, right, at Quest. And they're going to get their accounts established at Quest, and then we'll start doing business together. So again, they're just going to give me a verbal pledge as to how much they've got to work with. Now, another category of finding private lenders is what we call existing private lenders. Well, here's an interesting statistic, and I know there's a lot of you right here on the webinar now. Did you know that around 70% of account holders at Quest want to invest in real estate, but they want to be passive? They don't want to go out and negotiate deals and find deals. They want to be a private lender. So guess what? You need to network with your other fellow Quest account holders, because there's a large percentage of Quest account holders that want to be passive real estate investors. Now, another way to find existing private lenders is using my private lender data feed. I update that every month in the data feed, and we get every private lender loan that's closed in the United States. In the private lender data feed, we have letters that are already uploaded that can be mailed out. And this is another way that you can find and establish relationships with existing private lenders. But I'll tell you, the easiest way to do it is just simply take advantage, and Colin Taylor can tell you all about it. Simply take advantage of the networking opportunities that Quest puts on. I mean, account holders at Quest, real estate investors, if you've got an account, you can network with each other and do business together as well. Now, first things first, We're not selling. We're not persuading. We're not trying to talk anybody into anything when we have our private lending program. Be a teacher, put your private lender teacher hat on, teach people about the program you're offering. And again, there's no begging and there's no chasing. As I mentioned a moment ago, establish a relationship with a Quest representative like Colin Taylor. Establish a relationship so that when you are talking with a new potential private lender that's never even heard of self-directed IRAs, you now have someone that you can introduce them to. You need to know your program that you're offering to the private lenders. And let me tell you, never talk about your program and a deal in the initial conversation, because listen, as I said a moment ago, desperation has got a smell to it. Don't be talking about a deal and you're just, first of all, talking about private lending to a potential private lender. You want to separate those conversations. Now, where can private lenders get money to invest with you? Well, obviously, certificates of deposit, money market accounts, savings accounts, any kind of investment capital. But of course, if they have any kind of retirement funds, they can move those funds over to Quest and be a private lender for you. And also, they can utilize what I call arbitrage or leveraging an asset. If they have equity in real estate, your private lender can get a home equity line of credit and loan money out to you. Also, if they have stocks or mutual funds, they can get a portfolio loan backed by that asset and loan money out to you as well. Now, your private lending program, you determine, I say just copy my program, but you determine the rules and the terms for every transaction that you do. Your private lending program, you want to be able to tell your private lenders where you are investing. You also need to determine what's the minimum amount that you will accept from a private lender, because, sometimes they want to start out with lower amounts. So you need to determine what is the minimum you're going to accept. In my world, I don't accept anything less than $50,000 because, quite frankly, it's just not worth it for anything less. Now, I recommend sticking to a total loan to value of 75% of the after repaired value, and that's going to keep everybody protected. Now, all of my terms that I offer my private lenders are 2 to 5 years. If it's investment capital, the note's 2 years. If they're using retirement funds, it's 5 years. I pay 8 to 10% on all of my notes, depending on the position of the note. As I mentioned a moment ago, it's interest-only payments or accruing interest. That makes your private lender more money. And then I'm going to pay either monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual or annual, depending on what the private lender wants. Now, the frequency of payments, as I just said, comes down to your private lender's what their objective is. I don't charge any kind of penalty if the private lender calls the note due early. And I'm going to give each lender, as I mentioned, a 90-day call option so they can call the note due early if they need to. Of course, all the closings take place by either your real estate attorney or your title company, depending on the state that you're doing business in. And the private lender has got no fees or commissions to pay at all. I cover all the closing costs. The only fee that the private lender incurs is the wiring fee from their account to the closing agent. Of course, disbursement of funds, no funds are dispersed until after closing. And by the way, we never have private lenders wire money directly to us. Never, never, never. Private lenders only send funds to the closing agent. Now, we're going to name the private lender on the insurance policy as the mortgagee to protect them as well. And we're also going to name the private lender on the title policy as an additional insured. We use larger amounts to purchase houses, and of course, we use smaller amounts for rehabbing. Now, the documents that a private lender is going to receive on every closing we do, first of all, we have either an appraisal or a comparative market analysis. There's the original promissory note. There's the deed of trust or the mortgage that is recorded on public record. And as I mentioned, we're going to name the private lender as the mortgagee on the insurance policy and the additional insured on the title policy. The private lender at Quest, if they're using their retirement funds, Quest will receive the original documents. If they're just using investment capital, of course, the private lender themselves will receive the original documents. Again, as I mentioned, and Colin, I'm getting ready to bring you back here on the webinar here with me. But as I mentioned up front, be sure and take advantage. I want to autograph and mail this book to you. Just go to jayconner, JAYCONNER.com/book, and I'll ship this to you in the mail. And also, you are invited. You're not going to be charged the normal admission price of $3,000 for you and a guest. You get to come for free with only a $97 registration fee at my upcoming Private Money Academy conference in person. That's February 14, 15, and 16 right here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. And you can take advantage of that. Go to jaysliveevent.com and get registered. And with that, Colin, that wraps up the presentation, and I'm all available for questions and answers.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jay. That was extremely informative. Like I said, we really
we did cover a lot of meat and potatoes, didn't we?
Absolutely. Real quick, before we get into our Q&A, I am just going to share some details from the self-directed side as well, and a little bit about what Quest has coming up too. While I'm doing this, please, if y'all have any questions, go ahead and put those in the comments, and we'll be getting to those here shortly. But regarding the self-directed side of things, so if you are, interested in being a private lender, investing in real estate, even referring your own lenders, like Jay was talking about, right, and allowing those people or yourselves to have access into their retirement funds for alternative investments. That is what we do, right? That's our role here as Quest Trust Company, as a financial custodian. If you have any questions about that, if you're interested in learning more, kind of discovering what the fit might be with a company like Quest, go ahead and scan that QR code. Somebody like myself, one of the IRA specialists, or my colleagues, we'd be happy to sit down, talk with you. It is completely free. There's no cost just to have a conversation. So I certainly would encourage y'all to do that. And then as far as some, actually the promotion we're running right now for anybody setting up an account, whether that's yourself, your lenders, your friend, your spouse, parents, right? We are waiving, or not completely waiving, but applying a 50% off promotion on any account opening fees. Typically, we charge $100 to establish an IRA. So this is something we have going through the end of January as kind of like a Quest New Year's resolution, if you will. This is the Dynamic Duos, is an event we have coming up in February. Very beginning of February. We're doing it in each of our offices, starting with Austin on February 1st, Dallas on the 6th, and then Houston on the 8th. So this is going to be kind of going over how to manage and maintain your relationships with business partners, whether that's a spouse, oftentimes a friend, anybody like that, and kind of how to separate, especially with people you're close with, separate between work and personal. So this is actually something we're really excited about, and we'll have, depending on the office, a few different speakers, but people that are specifically in the real estate industry and how they maintain their relationships. So check it out. You can look more into that on our website. You can register on there. These are in person, but I believe all three, I know Dallas and Houston for certain, we will be streaming online as well on YouTube and Facebook. And then the last one here is the Quest Expo. We are really looking forward to this. This is our big event that we didn't even do it in 2023. The last one was back in September of 22. So a lot of planning, preparation, and work has been going into getting this one set up for 2024. It's going to be in Irving, Texas. So it's I think 15, 20 minutes north of Fort Worth, so right in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Although I'm not too familiar with that area, but that's my understanding. It's pretty close to Fort Worth. And, we're going to have speakers and experts flying in from, all across the country. We're very excited to, put this on. We're still kind of solidifying the panels and the speakers. We're hoping that Jay is going to be able to join us here as well for the expo. So we'll keep y'all posted on that. But for, just to find out a little bit more, if you're interested in seeing what opportunities lie here, whether it's networking, whether it's learning more about real estate investing, finding vendors and, potential business partners, anybody, whether you are, at the beginning of your real estate career, or you've been, you're a very experienced veteran with 30 years under your belt and 200 properties, whatever it is, right? This is the place for you. So I highly encourage y'all to check this one out as well. Like I said, it's our biggest event of the year. We'll probably, hopefully, the last one we did in 2022 was close to 1,000 attendees. So we're hoping to push past that this time around. So I think that's all I got. So Jay, let us get into some questions now, if that is all right with you.
You bet.
Great. Okay, so this first one here from Merrill. If I become one of your lenders, who handles the issues regarding defaults and foreclosures? If the mortgage/deed of trust is in my name, does this mean I get called into court if it goes that far?
Good question, Merrill. So here's a rider downer, and that is, if you as the borrower does not pay the private lender, the property does. So what in the world do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, again, as I mentioned, we are not borrowing unsecured funds. You can legally. I mean, somebody at Quest that's got an account where if somebody's just using liquid investment capital, you can just do a promissory note and loan the money out. But in my opinion, that's stupid. Why in the world would you loan money out unsecured? So as a private lender, my advice, and I never played an attorney on TV. I'm not a CPA, but I'll tell you, my recommendation is do not loan money out unsecured. Get your money backed by the real estate or whatever the collateral is. So in answer, Merrill, to the question, if you become a private lender, who handles the issues regarding defaults and foreclosures? Well, that's the risk you take. If you've loaned money out and your borrower does not pay you money, then you have got to, your only legal recourse is you got to hire an attorney to foreclose on that property. Now, hopefully, whoever you're doing business with, if the deal goes sideways, by the way, every one of our 47 private lenders has gotten paid 100% of every money and penny that was coming to them. Why is that? Because of the ultra conservative loan to value, 75% of the after repaired value. But when it comes to the legal recourse, if that borrower does not an alternative to foreclosure is the borrower can just give you a deed in lieu of foreclosure without you having to go through that process. But at the end of the day, the responsibility and your recourse is actually going to be on you.
Perfect. I did miss one real quick question here from Jeff, just regarding the recording and replay. So I wanted to address this with everybody. There will be a replay. It will be posted on our YouTube channel probably within 10 minutes or so of us wrapping up here shortly. Y'all can check that out. I know Jay certainly covered a lot of details today. So I highly encourage y'all to go back and watch that. Friends that are interested, share it.
Yeah, Colin, it's probably a good idea, even for everybody here that's live watching the webinar, go back and watch the replay because I plowed a lot of ground in 45 minutes.
Absolutely. Yep. I completely agree with you there. Let's see. What else do we have here? What is the least amount suggested to open an IRA with y'all? Stephanie, that's a good question. We don't have any minimums here. We have people who, set up the account without any 401k or other retirement funds to move over and kind of just start from the ground up, making contributions into the plan, even though those are limited to a certain amount every year. For 2024, it's about 7 or 8,000. Depending on your age, but some people just make the contributions into there and they'll invest in options, sometimes in notes, partnering on deals with other individuals. There's certainly creative ways to kind of use even those smaller accounts. So a lot of people like to have a little bit more than that, maybe in the range of 60, 75,000. But again, there's plenty of creative ways to start with much less than that. So really is up to you. That's, certainly something worth researching and kind of looking into. But great question, Stephanie. Let's see. Carl, I'll share my information here shortly. And that way, if y'all do want to get in touch with me, you can do that as well. And Jay, I'm sure, I guess I'll put this back up. Jay's website is here for his event. Is there, another website or any other information that you can share, Jay, for them to get in touch with you too?
Sure. I know it's hard to believe, but here in North Carolina, we actually have landlines and handsets with cords attached to it. People can actually call us. So I'll give out our phone number, 252-808-2927, 252-808-2927. And of course, our website is jayconner.com, JAYCONNER.com. Can contact us there as well.
Perfect. All righty. Let's see. We had some more questions come through here. Jay, do you use a mortgage note service company to handle repayment of the loans? A loan servicer?
Right. So I know some good servicers, but we don't use one. We manage all of our notes ourselves. And so we pay our private lenders to either Quest or to them personally if they're just using investment capital, just right out here, from our office.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. This question is, we have zero experience with private lending. We are very interested in private lending and land deals. How can we get started doing it the right way?
Well, first of all, you want to do business with somebody that you know and trust, right? And if you meet somebody like here I am, right? I'm being introduced to you by Colin and by Quest. We've been doing business together for years and years and years. So how would I suggest not getting started? Don't do business with somebody that you met on the internet that posted on social media and you have no idea who they are. I mean, at the end of the day, this world comes down to relationships and comes down to trust. So if you're very interested in private lending and also land deals, Colin, I assume that Quest is still doing networking events, right?
Absolutely.
And so you can network virtually on Zoom and in person as well. But, getting started, start networking with your fellow account holders at Quest. If you want to get started right away in private lending, well, come to my event, February 14, 15, and 16, and you'll meet about 80 people right there that want to put your money to work.
Absolutely.
So that's another great networking, opportunity as well.
Agreed. Let's see. We've got probably time for two more questions. I see we're right at 1 o'clock here, but these should be pretty quick. So this is a really good question. Will the UDFI tax be applied on these transactions? So what they're referring to is sometimes a niche form of tax that can actually apply even to IRA accounts and non-taxable entities, which is known as unrelated debt financed income tax. So the really nice thing about private lending out of your IRA, and this is kind of why some people use the phrase loan, don't own. because if you are investing in a debt leveraged or a debt financed deal, there is a tax that can apply. But when you're the one doing the debt financing, this isn't, in the same scenario. So no, I guess in short, no, UDFI taxes would not apply on these private lending transactions when your IRA is the lender, if that makes sense. Jay, are you a Dan Kennedy disciple?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Merrill. I love Dan Kennedy. I started going to Dan Kennedy events and following him, I want to say all the way back to 2007. So, yeah. And by the way, Dan Kennedy is not dead. He's still alive.
And Jay, one last time, would you repeat your phone number and website address? I'm going to put that down in the chat too.
Sure. So my phone number is 252-808-2927, 252-808-2927. And my general website is jayconner, JAYCONNER.com. Of course, for the upcoming live event, that's jaysliveevent.com, where you get to meet me and, more importantly, Colin Taylor in person.
That's right. There we go. And like Jay said, Connor with ER, not an OR.
Yeah, ER, not OR. By the way, Colin, if you can, take a couple of seconds and tell the attendees here, what are you going to be speaking about at my upcoming event? Because you got a whole session yourself.
Yeah, certainly. So I think one thing that is really valuable on the self-directed side is really learning how to utilize your retirement funds, how to access that 401k, get money out, learn about, ways that you can do different deals and structure loans and things like that, and invest, right? Invest your IRA and lend out or find your own lender. So I really kind of break my presentation down into two different segments, or I guess categories of thinking, right? One, where you can use your own retirement funds for private investing, for alternative investing, and two, how you can go take that information and teach other individuals on using their own retirement funds on lending, right, to you for your real estate deals. So it's kind of a double whammy, but I think it really is valuable learning on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, Colin, we always love having you come to the event and looking forward to having you come to the event February 14, 15, and 16.
Likewise, Jay, and I'm excited to get back out there. It's been some time since I was over there on Emerald Isle, so I'm looking forward to seeing you and your team too.
You got it.
All right, well, everybody, thank you all so much for joining today. I know we ran a few minutes over, but I'm sure y'all found this interesting and took a ton away from it. So, like I said, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. Jay, thank you again for your time. We appreciate you always.
You got it. Thanks for having me, Colin.
Yes, sir. All right. Take care, everybody.